What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, and on the phone we got Jonas from Bombs of Hades. Thank you for your time today, man. I appreciate it.
No worries, man.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. So you have the Phantom Bell EP coming out. One thing I was curious about is I always like asking bands that put out the EP. Could this maybe be a preview to what maybe the next full length follow up to Death Mask Replica will sound like, or does the Phantom L EP kind of stand out a little bit more in the Bombs of Hades catalog?
Well, both yes and no. We've done shitloads of 7 inches and EPs and stuff, so splits, and for some reason, some songs just end up there, instead of an album, And the two new songs on Phantom Bell they were just written for this. They weren't considered for the next album or anything. But still, the kind of feel, it's still gonna be, some of it's, you're gonna recognize some of it on the next album. Awesome. At least in maybe a song or two, but.
Okay, fair enough. Are you always worried that maybe the song you leave out of a full-length album will be a B-side one day, just be the biggest hit Bombs of Hades will ever have?
Well, we have a few of those songs that we actually had on 7 inches that I was like, oh, they're like the most fun songs to play live also. But sometimes it's just, I usually have a concept for an album, so if a song isn't on the album, it's for a reason, it doesn't fit the concept.
Mm-hmm. So when you take a concept from what we heard of maybe Chambers of Abominations or The Serpent's Redemption or Atomic Temples or Death Mask Replica, do you think of this concept beforehand and that helps determine the music itself, or do you need music before you come up with a concept?
No, I always have the concept first. It's this is how the album's going to be like, this is the concept for the album. So all our records more or less have some kind of concept around it. Mm-hmm. And for me it's very easy. If I had that like determined first, this is how I want the album to sound, it's so much easier to write the actual music after that.
Mm-hmm. Is the music open to interpretation, or do you like to try to maybe engage listeners into the concept to more or less kind of see things from what your point of view is?
Well, it's whatever. You can never, when I listen to music, I interpret what I think maybe the one who wrote the music was thinking about, but you can never truly know exactly what someone was thinking or feeling or whatever when they were writing it. So it's totally up to the listener.
But if a listener were to want to maybe get a full understanding of the concept, they should probably listen to the songs in order, right? It's not like they should listen to Death Mask Replica on shuffle or something like that, right?
Well, Death Mask is, that album you can actually listen to on shuffle, but still I prefer to listen to a record from start to finish. It's, Atomic Temples you really have to, because that is really truly a concept album, so you have to listen to it from start to finish to get the full story, Mm-hmm. But whatever, I don't listen to concept albums. We've only done one, but the new one is kind of gonna be a concept album too. Mm-hmm. But I'm not really sure yet, but probably, yeah.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to a concept album, is the order that the songs are on the album the actual order that you wrote it in?
No, but it's if it's a concept album, the songs are in order of the story, but lyric wise. But when I write songs for Bombs of Hades, I write now I'm gonna write the song that's gonna be song number 3 on the album, or song number 5. So I already have it mapped out what kind of order, what kind of song it's gonna be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One thing I was also curious about is, as a lot of people know, you also play with At the Gates, and did maybe working with them to create To Drink from the Night itself maybe open up some new ideas for what you wanted to incorporate in Bombs of Hades?
Well, not really. I kind of really want to both of them to be At the Gates and Bombs of Hades are two separate things. You know, the only like thing that's really in common is like the progressive side of it. Just using, because At the Gates is going more progressive in its songwriting. That's what Jonas wants to do, and I'm up for that, and that's really what I want to do too. So that's the only thing. But the difference is like playing wise. You know, it's Bombs of Hades. We are all still. I mean, I write music so the other guys can actually play it. I mean, and At the Gates, the bar is a lot higher in At the Gates when it comes to like playing wise. So, which is because Bombs of Hades is still kind of a punkish kind of band that plays kind of. We're a punk band that plays progressive death metal, which is.
That is the best slogan for any band I think I've ever heard in my life. A punk band that plays progressive death metal. You gotta I think that should be the name of the next album.
Well, maybe when they're trying to sell it.
You never know. That is a good marketing campaign. It's like which audience is supposed to listen to this?
Yeah. Punks, metalheads, and prog guys.
Wow. Talk about bringing people together. Talk about music bringing people together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could never picture seeing those three in the same room, let alone at the same show.
Well, I have seen at shows, though. I mean, I've been to prog shows when there's like punk guys that are also into prog, you know. But
yeah, from New York City, I've seen plenty of Sick of It All fans at Devin Townsend shows as well. So yeah. Now, one thing I was really curious about is being a guitar player. Do you actually have a background in like theory, like what scale you're working off of, like what theoretical element is behind it, or do you tend to prefer to improvise with your guitar playing?
Well, I suck at theory when it comes to music. I just when people start talking about different drum beats and timings and whatever, and they just lose me right away. Just if you just tell me what kind of stuff it is, I know exactly what you mean, But if you talk about like, oh, this goes in, play this in 7/8 or whatever, I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't know anything about scales or anything. I've been playing guitar since I was 7, but I never really. I mean, I've practiced scales, but when I practice scales, I listen to records and stuff, and it's like, how did they do that? And then just try to figure it out,
Mm-hmm. I guess sometimes that works in your favor, though, because, like, I guess from what I've heard, I've interviewed people who have a huge background in theory, and they say sometimes that could dictate them in a way too much and kind of.
Yeah, I think so. I truly think so. But I mean, I wish I knew a bit more of it, and it's never too late to learn stuff like that. But sometimes I feel like that's part of my playing. I'm a total feel player. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not about that sometimes I really don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway.
That's the best way to go. You are a brave musician, let me tell you.
Yeah. I mean, it's always like you're like walking the plank every time you're playing.
Yeah, that's another great way of putting it. Damn, you're good with these descriptions. But like, kind of like going back to Bombs of Hades, because you mentioned like there's elements of punk, there's elements of melodic death metal, there's progressive elements. And it has to be easy. Like, I do consider Bombs of Hades to be a fairly experimental band, so I imagine that trying new things has never been an issue, right?
No, not really. I mean, if it works out, sometimes the other guys. So like when I come with ideas, and they were like, "How the hell is this gonna work and even sound good?" And it's like, trust me. And I mean, sometimes I fail, but it never goes to. If I fail, it never like ends up in a proper song, Mm-hmm. You try it out a couple of times. Sometimes I have like. It's like, oh, there's nothing happening here. There's going to be shitloads of stuff that's going to go on top of this.
Yeah. Being such a prolific artist, obviously playing with Bombs of Hades and, playing with At the Gates, but you've also played, with The Crown, you've played with so many different bands. Is it maybe like a different mind frame depending on the project that you're playing with? Or is there like a usual method behind the madness that applies to everything?
Yeah, well, I mean, every band is different. The only I usually say I only play in bands with really good friends, and The Crown was actually two bands that I played in weren't really bands that I joined that weren't really friends. With the guys in The Crown, I didn't know them at all when I joined them, so that was kind of like felt kind of. I would think, looking back at it, it's just kind of just weird. It's the same when I joined Cripple Black Phoenix, but some of those guys in Cripple Black Phoenix have come to be like really close friends, and that's why all of us that's not in Cripple Black Phoenix anymore have a new band together. So just because we want to play together. So.
Mm-hmm. And you've also collaborated, like done guest works with bands such as like Grand Exit or Just Before Dawn or something like that. So like when you are collaborating with a different artist, even joining with At the Gates, like do you look at like the artist's work and be like, this is how I have to play, this is what I have to do, or do the bands kind of want you to bring a little bit of your own mix into it?
Well, I'm doing like when I'm doing guest stuff, it's just I just ask them, what do you want? What do you want me to do? You just want me to do just bring whatever I do into it, or do you have a specific idea or whatever? I mean, joining At the Gates is, you're joining At the Gates, so you have to conform some. I have to play. I don't play like Anders, but me and Anders think we have the same kind of inspirations when it comes to, and he's not a technical player too when it comes to solos and stuff, and which is right up my alley because I'm not a shredder. I really don't like shredding. I'm more of a field player. Like guitar players I like is like David Gilmour and Andy Latimer. And guitar players I still like if you're a good shredder, shred away.
Yeah. Well, to
But
me, I don't think it matters how good you could shred on the guitar. If the solo's not going well with the song, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
yeah, I prefer the weird shredders like Robert Fripp and stuff like that. He's a shredder, but he's just he's like Miles Davis.
Yeah. Or you could take like the Animals as Leaders route, where the whole song is just a guitar solo.
Oh well, to be honest, I've never heard them.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Well, if you do like shredding, or if you're ever into shredding, I recommend listening to them.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, being both a vocalist and a guitarist, and kind of like going in roles in many different projects, is there maybe a similar though creative, like is maybe there a similar thing that goes into writing vocals as it is to writing guitar parts, or is it like just a separate art that you master both in?
Well, I always do the vocals after the guitars. Boss Vegas is the only band that I sing in now, so it's the vocals always come after. But I kind of work with the vocals after, from like Atomic Temples and forwards. I've been taking a kind of a different approach to the vocals and the lyrics. 'Cause that's when I really started using the cut-up method that David Bowie used and William Burroughs used in his books also.
Mm.
So it's a lot of my lyrics. If you just read them, they maybe don't make any sense. If you read the Phantom Bell lyrics, there's some kind of, you can sense it's about some kind of madness. But I just want good phrasing. I want the lyrics to sound good.
Yeah.
They don't need to mean anything, have a deep meaning or anything, but I just want them to sound good.
Yeah. You ever I'd imagine this has to have happened before, where you have like the best lyrics ever written down though, but they always go like one syllable over or under the actual arrangements.
Yeah. So I focus a lot more on how the words are delivered than what they actually mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think people will get more into the meaning of it when it's delivered right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in some kind of way, it ends up meaning something anyway. So.
Yeah, and you ready for the most difficult question of the interview?
Sure.
Yep. How do you know when a song is done?
How do I know when a song is done? Well, when it's recorded. Yeah.
You're the this is the third interview in a row where they said that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, it's not really done until every like single thing is put on there, and it's to me actually a song isn't done until it's fucking mastered.
That I guess that's fair enough. If you,
Yeah, that's when you hear the whole thing. You know, it's like if it sounds close enough to what I had in my head when I wrote it, it's done. You know.
yeah. Going back to just songwriting in general now, like whether it's, just writing a chord progression or writing lyrics or, coming up with a concept, do you kind of have to like put yourself in a certain place at a certain time in order to have inspiration come, or does inspiration or ideas just come out of nowhere sometimes?
It usually just comes out of nowhere all the time. So I mean, I get like I can get a riff in my head or whatever. I can just hear like a drum pattern and just like, oh, I have to write something around that. Because I mean, for me, drums is the most important thing. I don't really care about riffs. I mean, it's the whole groove and the feel of it. It's more important. I mean, everyone can write a riff, really, but it's not the riff itself. It's what turns into a song in the end. So I never write. Oh, I have a riff. I hate jamming songs in a rehearsal room and stuff. It's just pointless and boring.
Yeah.
Unless you're like actually going down to like smoke some weed and jam.
Yeah.
Just play some like psychedelic stuff. That's a completely different thing. But which I love to do also. Like psychedelic music. It's one of my biggest loves. But otherwise, writing songs is just I always have ideas. It's like every day almost.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them never come to fruition, but some of them like instantly. Like Phantom Bell, I wrote that in like 15 minutes or something.
Wow.
I just had that beginning, the start of it, and just wrote the whole song around it. It's just 3 riffs of the whole song, so.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the drums are the most important thing, and that's true. The famous saying. I mean, and this can go whether you're playing smooth jazz or you're playing grindcore. If your drummer sucks, your band sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have one more question for you, but when it comes to, because, we talked about songwriting and all this stuff, but then there's also playing live. I have yet to see Bombs of Hades. I hope you bring this to the States soon, but like I've watched you play with At the Gates on the Behemoth tour and on the Arch Enemy Amon Amarth tour. And when it comes to playing live, is there maybe a similar energy into playing? Like, is there maybe a similar creative aspect to playing live in front of an audience as it is with when you're in the confines of your own studio space, or is playing live and songwriting almost a completely separate art?
For me, it's completely separate things. It's like, I mean, I love both aspects. I mean, I love being in the studio, but it's like just like making things, like creating stuff, that because that's where you're creating. But like, I mean, if it's certainly with playing metal music, you don't really create anything on stage except like the feeling that you're actually like when you're playing. But you don't like create any like new music. There's never any ad libs with stuff. There's no room for it.
Yeah, metal's
like
not very
improvising,
much of an improv thing.
because you fucking lose yourself right away if you improvise.
Yeah.
But in that kind of music, playing other stuff, playing like psychedelic music, you can improvise like a whole show.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
that's the thing. I love being on stage. I mean, up to till a few years ago, I fucking hated playing live because I put so much pressure on myself. But now it's just walk in the park compared to what it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, and especially when you play music, it's super heavy. Like if you improvise or even try, you'll just get lost within the intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything with Bombs of Hades you would like to promote? Like obviously, things are kind of static right now, but can we be expecting maybe some live shows to promote this EP? And when can we be expecting a new Bombs of Hades full length?
Well, we we only have one show booked in Stockholm in September, and I mean, the way things are now with this virus thing, you don't even know if that's gonna happen, you know. But new album will most likely be released next year. We're aiming to record it in September, so.
Awesome, my birthday month. But Jonas, thank you so much, everybody. Jonas of Bombs of Hades. Be sure to check out the Phantom Bell EP when it comes out, and new stuff coming fairly soon. And we'll see you next time on Heavy New York.